So where is President Obama's defense of his former VP and son who were putting a shakedown on the Ukraine? If that's not true, why has the former president not come out and said so? The Biden campaign, Democrats in general, and of course the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media continue to state that this narrative, this conspiracy theory being fostered by people on the right, in particular talk radio and these guys in the alternative conservative media, this idea that it was Vice President Biden putting a shakedown, a bribe, blackmail, and a quid pro quo on Ukraine over stopping the investigation of his son is debunked. It's not true. It didn't happen. And to keep talking about it is the fostering of a lie. In fact, the Biden campaign even went so far as to release a statement to all media outlets: stop having Rudy Giuliani on. Do not talk to this man. All you're doing is legitimizing his false accusations. You know, I learned a long time ago, there's a little phrase, thou doth protest too much, that there's a fine line between stating that you're innocent and getting to the point with your denials and your lashing out at people for asking questions that, are you really innocent and feeling persecuted, or are you too terrified that we're actually getting to the truth? Now, where is Barack Obama in all of this? After all, this all went down while he was the President of the United States. We have a clear timeline now that in 2014, Vice President Biden, along with his other duties, was kind of given some oversight in watching what was going on in Ukraine, because at the time, the United States, as the rest of the world, was looking at Ukraine as a very corrupt nation, that there were a lot of problems there. And so Biden kind of became Obama's point man to keep an eye on things. Corruption. Wow. As soon as he became the appointed, designated overseer on behalf of the United States into all things Ukraine, well, shazam, Batman, a corporation over there which is alleged to be corrupt through and through was even listed by the Obama administration as a corrupt corporation. They give Hunter Biden, son of the new American overseer, Vice President Joe Biden, they give him a job on their board making $50,000 a month. Now, what did Joe Biden ever do, or I should say his son, ever do to warrant that type of salary, that type of credential, when he had absolutely no experience, no training, no education, no certification, nothing in the gas and energy industry? Yet a foreign government, a foreign entity, a foreign corporation gives him $50,000 a month to sit on their board right after his father is given oversight into seeing that the Ukraine clean up its act. Can you say last name? Can you say this narcissistic opportunist, hey, if we take care of the VP's son, he'll take care of us? About that same time, there was a movement afoot in the Ukraine, which eventually became a revolution, which overthrew that government. But in that movement was this demand that corruption be stopped. And an investigator began looking into, yes, the very corporation that Hunter Biden was a member of. Joe Biden, visiting the Ukraine, took his son over on Air Force Two. Now, he claims he had no knowledge of his son's business dealings in Ukraine. Yet we have a photograph from August of 2014 where there's Joe Biden and his son on the golf course with a couple of guys from the Ukrainian business dealings of his son. But Joe had no knowledge. And then he's sitting there in Ukraine demanding that they fire the investigator because the investigator was corrupt. What was his corruption? He was examining the corporation that Joe Biden's son was working for and making $50,000 a month from. Are you following this timeline? And he says, look, I'm getting on a plane in 6 hours and I'm out of here. You're not going to get your $1 billion in aid from the United States unless you fire this investigator. You don't have the authority to do that. You're not the president. Joe Biden quipped, call him. Call him. That's a shakedown. That's blackmail. That's bribery. Magically, this investigator gets fired and replaced by somebody a little bit more friendly to the Obama-Biden agenda, which means Hunter is off the hook, can continue to make his $50K a month, and we won't even talk about the Biden shakedown with his son of China and the $1.5 billion they raked in from there. But of course, we're fantasizing all this. There's no there. The real problem is Donald Trump, and that's why he's got to be impeached. For what? Well, that phone call. What about it? Well, he was demanding a favor. No, it was Joe Biden who was demanding a favor and withholding money if they didn't come through. And he's admitted it on videotape, and I've shown it here ad nauseum. So again, if Biden was truly innocent and we're just misrepresenting the facts and we're not understanding what happened, where is Barack Obama? Why doesn't he come out and say, no, there was no quid pro quo. Joe did not put a shakedown on the Ukraine to get them to stop the investigation because it was his son. Obama is saying nothing. Nothing. And the silence is deafening. See, Obama doesn't want to go on record because as soon as he does, William Barr will subpoena him. William Barr will haul him in for questioning. So right now, Obama is maintaining his right to be silent. And that is killing Joe Biden's campaign. Now, the mainstream media is over the top in pushing this impeachment inquiry, and now Nancy Botox Pelosi and the boys there on Capitol Hill, they've got to be all in on this because, as Al Green, representative from Texas, said, if we don't impeach Trump, he will be reelected. That's what's driving this. They don't have a Democratic presidential candidate who has captured America, has captured the heart and soul of America, and you don't have people that are excited to go to the polls and vote for any potential Democratic nominee. So, because in this strong economy, because this president has kept his promises, because this president, despite all of the opposition and the continuing narrative of Airport Terminal TV, used to be known as CNN, and PMSNBC, and the rest of that ilk in the mainstream media, despite their never-ending 24/7 barrage of anti-Trump, anti, Trump's poll numbers remain high. His electability, re-electability, I should say, is high. And they don't have a candidate with a message that offsets any of that. He got to go. This is like a mob hit by the media and the Democrats. He got to go. We can't beat him, so he got to go. So here we go again. More collusion hogwash. Now, isn't it the president's job as the, not simply the chief executive officer of the land, but he is the chief law enforcement officer? Isn't it the president's job to hold other countries accountable on the issue of corruption? Doesn't matter whether or not Trump is running against Joe Biden, and they keep wanting to make this argument. Well, The president can't be securing favors from a foreign entity to take out one of his political opponents. Well, right now, Biden's not really the opponent because Biden isn't the nominee yet. He's a potential opponent, a potential nominee, but he ain't there yet. The president is well within his constitutionally given authority that if we're going to be sending American tax dollars to foreign entities, we have to have assurances that they're on the up and up, that they're not corrupt, that they're not vile, that they line up with not only an American agenda, but they line up ethically, morally, and with the laws and the ideals of America. By the way, isn't that what Joe Biden's defense is of why he was withholding the $1 billion in aid? Oh, it had nothing to do with I wanted him to leave my son alone. No, I didn't even know anything about that. Liar, you're on the golf course with him. No. This was about the investigator was corrupt, and we weren't going to give money to them if they had a corrupt investigator. They had to get a new investigator. Well, all Trump did was ask the Ukrainian president, hey, we've got some allegations here that the former vice president and his son were involved in corruption. He was a representative of America as the vice president. We need you to look into that, please. The president is within his constitutional authority to do that. And by the way, if Barack Obama had thought that a relative of George W. Bush had put a shakedown on a country and had said to that leader, I really need you to look into this, would we be having this discussion right now? No. What's driving this impeachment talk is the fact that Donald Trump was elected, they didn't stop it, and they know they can't stop his reelection. So now we've got to establish this pattern. He obviously colluded with Russia, even though Bob Mueller couldn't prove it. Now we've got him dead to rights colluding with the Ukraine, although nobody can actually state what law he's actually broken. And then the New York Times tried to float a story this week that, well, he hit Australia up for a favor. So even though that's a bunch of bunk, they're trying to throw these narratives out where it's one right after the other that all this president does all day is get on the phone and talk to world leaders and pressure them to do him personal favors. They're trying to establish pattern, and that by pattern, you will just think he's guilty by the fact that they have these never-ending allegations. There's no proof, there's no evidence, and the president has done over and above. He released transcripts before they asked for it, and now we're subpoenaing. Why are they issuing subpoenas? Because this thing is going nowhere. The average American does not care that the president asked the Ukrainian president to look into corruption. But they are a little bit intrigued by this. Well, why was the former vice president's son making all that money? And why was the vice president on videotape saying he would withhold aid from them unless they fired the guy investigating his son? Now, America is interested in that. So now, the Democrats and the mainstream media, they got to go all in on this impeachment inquiry. The problem is the real Democrats, the ones who are actually smart, not the squad, the ones who really get what's going on and are now starting to come forward, like Governor Chris Cuomo, even though I can't stand his policies, or to be quite honest, him as an individual. He was the one that said Nancy Pelosi has put us on the impeachment to nowhere. And they're hoping by the continual ramping this up in the media that they can keep the Mitt Romneys and the quasi-rhino Republicans stirred up and even talking about maybe we do need to impeach Trump. Maybe we do. Maybe we do. Maybe we do. There are now Democrats coming forward and under anonymity stating how they were pressured. They felt like they had a gun put to their head that they needed to come out and publicly support impeachment, even though they don't. By the way, let me tell you what impeachment will do, and it's going to make one of my predictions that I made a while ago that even some of you said, can't happen, because I was in direct disagreement with Rush Limbaugh. I've been saying for weeks, we got a strong economy, but you walk it down, The liberals and the mainstream media will try to create a recession. And Rush Limbaugh said that is impossible. They can't do that. Well, they do control the individuals who control the banks. Liberals do. So they can manufacture recession. But let me tell you, the more this impeachment talk gets ramped up and dragged out, it will hurt the economy. And just impeachment talk could trigger a man-made recession as people lose confidence because nothing is going to get done now in Washington. No real legislation, no real reform, nothing. It's all going to be impeachment 24/7. And that will hurt the economy. That could trigger a man-made recession where people stop spending money, stop hiring, stop growth, because we're stuck on impeachment. You need to know what's going on, and that's my rant for today. Hey, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you smack the bell for my next rant.